Welcome to LinguaWire English B1. Today we have two stories, one about Ecuador's president and the Colombian election, and another about a rescue from a flooded cave in Laos. Remember to follow us so you can practice your English every day with the latest episode. For transcripts and quizzes, visit linguawire.com. To discuss the first story, I'm joined by Sarah, our LinguaWire correspondent, covering Latin American politics. Sarah, what happened between Ecuador and Colombia?
Thanks, Daniel. Ecuador's president, Daniel Noboa, spoke with a Colombian presidential candidate, Abelardo de la Espriella. After their conversation, Noboa said Ecuador would remove tariffs on Colombian goods starting June 1st. This surprised Colombia's government, which accused Ecuador of interfering in their election.
Why would Ecuador decide to stop tariffs now? What impact could this have on the election?
Noboa said they agreed on trade and security issues. He described the talk as with an administration in waiting, meaning he spoke as if de la Espriella might become president. This could give the candidate an advantage by showing support from a neighbouring country. It's notable because Ecuador had introduced tariffs on Colombian products earlier this year.
How has Colombia's government responded to this?
Colombia's foreign ministry called it deliberate interference. They see Ecuador's actions as an attempt to influence their vote. Colombia's current president, Gustavo Petro, who is left-wing, cannot run again. Noboa supports the US and takes a tough stance on drug violence. The election could lead to big changes in Colombia's policies.
What does this situation tell us about relations between the two countries?
It highlights tensions between neighbours. Ecuador is worried about security at the border because of drug gangs. Noboa also said they agreed to hand over Ecuadorian criminals found in Colombia. This deal could change how the countries cooperate on crime and trade. But it might also deepen political divisions during the election.
Could this situation change after the election?
That depends on who wins. If de la Espriella becomes president, relations with Ecuador might improve. If another candidate wins, tensions could continue or increase. The election's outcome is very important for the region.
Thank you, Sarah. This story shows how politics and trade can be closely connected and affect each other in unexpected ways. Now, for our second story, I'm joined by Adam, our LinguaWire correspondent for Asia and Rescue News. Adam, what's the latest on the flooded cave in Laos?
Hello, Daniel. 4 more men trapped in a flooded cave in Laos have been rescued. They were stuck for 10 days after heavy rains flooded the cave tunnels. The men had entered the cave searching for gold when the flood blocked their way out.
That must have been very difficult. How did the rescuers get them out?
The rescue team, mostly from Thailand, used diving gear to bring the men out one by one. The cave is very narrow, with some parts only about 50 centimeters wide. The rescue was slow and dangerous. After being freed, the men were taken to a medical tent for health checks.
How many men were trapped, and how many are still missing?
7 men went into the cave. So far, 5 have been rescued alive. 2 men are still missing. Rescuers are continuing their search, but the water and narrow tunnels make it very difficult.
What was the reaction from the rescuers and people nearby?
There was a lot of joy and relief. Videos showed cheers and hugs as the men came out. One man smiled and another cried. while hugging rescuers. It was a very emotional moment after such a long and dangerous time underground.
What does this rescue tell us about the challenges of such operations?
It shows how difficult and risky cave rescues are. The team had to plan carefully and use special skills. At first, experts thought about pumping water out, but the divers decided to bring the men out in stages. It's a strong example of teamwork and courage under pressure.
Thank you, Adam. It's encouraging to hear positive news about people working together in tough situations. Let's review some useful language from today's episode. First, from the story about Ecuador and Colombia, we have 3 words related to politics and trade. The first word is tariff. A tariff is a tax on goods coming from another country. In the story, Ecuador had tariffs on Colombian products but said it would stop them. For example, the government raised tariffs on imported cars last year. The second word is interference. This means trying to influence or change something that is not your business. Colombia said Ecuador's president was interfering in their election. For example, the teacher warned against interference during the exam. The third word is agreement. An agreement is when 2 or more people or countries decide on something together. Noboa and the Colombian candidate said they reached an agreement on trade and security. For example, we made an agreement to meet every Friday. Now, for the second story, let's look at the verb to rescue. It means to save someone from danger or harm. The past tense is rescued. We heard about rescuers saving men from the flooded cave. You can say, the firefighters rescued the family from the fire, or she was rescued after being lost in the forest. This verb is useful when talking about helping people in emergencies or difficult situations. That's all for today's language recap. Follow LinguaWire for the latest daily episode and build your daily language habit with us.